Hey guys, so like many of you, I imagine you've been looking over the past week at everything that's been going on with Donald Trump and tariffs on various countries and trying to figure out just what the hell's going on. Maybe the most clear cut, quickest way to put it is to say that it's a straight up pivot now to hard power as opposed to soft power. If you want to think of in the world, there are uh, proponents of the idea that if you're a big, powerful country, then you can use that might to exert very direct influence on other countries to bend to your will. Then there's no bigger proponent of that now than the United States. Um, Interestingly, of course, seems to be happening to the USA's sort of like geographical close neighbours at the moment more than anyone. You've got your Mexico, you've got your Canada. Was it Colombia that very briefly appeared to be hit by 25% tariffs when they weren't accepting deportation flights, and then that quickly U-turned. Now the Canada Mexico tariffs have been paused for 30 days now, but we'll get onto that. And of course, there's 10% on its way to China as well. And 10% on its way to the EU, I think, at some point as well. It's hard to keep track. It's hard to keep track of all these tariffs, but yeah, I think this very much represents quite obviously a very clear change in direction for the way that the United States conducts its foreign policy, even more so than the first Trump term. And Trump dabbled with a little bit of tariffs there, but Trump's second term, it's got a very different feel to it, hasn't it? It's like a sort of Trump unleashed kind of thing. Um, and what does the United Kingdom do within all of this? Where we exist within this Western world, within this NATO alliance, within these liberal democracies, with countries that we view as allies and that we have lots in common with, and then all of a sudden the biggest and most powerful of the bunch is throwing its weight around like a bully to countries that are supposed to be its ally. Keir Starmer, kind of on the one hand, not wanting to piss Trump off, and on the other hand, still wanting to sort of keep good relations with the EU, and he's trying to have a reset with the EU. We'll see how well that goes. It's an incredibly fine tightrope to walk. Now, instinctively, when I've seen, for example, the tariffs that were put onto Canada, um, you look at Canada and you think, well, this is a fellow English-speaking country, part of the Commonwealth. King Charles is their head of state. Um, Surely something like that happening would deserve at least a response from the Prime Minister of this country to kind of say, well, hang on a minute, this isn't really on. Come on now, America. But no, Starmer's being very very quiet. And yes, I think you can describe that as being cowardly. Um, but I also think it's pragmatic. And it pains me to say that because my instincts very much are to say, well, come on, stick up for the Canadians here. But Starmer's trying to walk a line right now where he's trying to see, can I get through this period of time without having the United States crosshairs appear on the United Kingdom? Because I think his overall outlook is what is in the United Kingdom's national interest right now with the world as it is. And the answer to that seems to be something like maintain as good relations as possible with both the European Union and the United States, and if at all possible, avoid getting pulled into a trade war. That seems like a sensible enough premise for the time being. Um, Now, of course, I think Trump has already described, the UK is out of line and maybe something needs to be done. But compared to his sort of fiery rhetoric about a lot of other countries, he seems to be quite a bit softer on the UK at the moment. When asked about Starmer, Trump said, "Oh, Keir's doing a good job." Apparently, in the phone call that they had between them, it was pretty cordial and they got on well enough from the briefings we've been told, at least. Though, of course, I think also that phone call didn't really involve matters of a great degree of policy substance, from what's been briefed at least. So areas of contention where they could end up falling out maybe are yet to manifest. Um, but for the time being, yeah, Starmer and the government they're keeping their head down. They want to be seen as sort of not too close to Europe, not too close to Trump, kind of its own thing, trying to juggle both sides. Ultimately, whether or not that's going to be possible for them to do in the long run, I think that's going to be incredibly tricky, because it's a very unpredictable world at the moment, and Donald Trump is a very unpredictable world leader. Sooner or later, he could well do something even beyond what he has already that does seriously require some amount of condemnation. Uh, I don't know. Say if he starts chucking tariffs onto Panama to force them to hand over the canal, or to Denmark because he wants Greenland or whatever. And again, trying to figure out what Trump's ultimate end goals are tricky as well, because rhetorically you hear about Canada being the 51st state, that Greenland should be the 50th. There's a lot of 51st states. That Greenland should be the 51st state. That Panama Canal should return ownership over to the United States. Now, whether those are ultimately the end goals, or whether in fact it's something more akin to we want more military bases on Greenland and access to all their natural resources, or with Canada we want an even better trading relationship with them than we've already got, or with Panama we want any Chinese influence over the ports completely gone, but we're not fussed about the day-to-day operation of it or something. It could be as simple as those things, or it could be all the way along to no, it's exactly as it sounds, the way that he says, and ultimately at some point he is going to go to try and take over these places one way or another. The problem is with Trump, I can't put anything past him. I really can't put anything past him. Because this is the man that refused to concede having lost an election, and created the big lie that it was stolen from him by Joe Biden, and whipped up his supporters into a frenzy to go and storm the Capitol building. And that I mean, you can lay out a charge sheet of things about a mile long, but for me that always comes back as being one of the really big ones, to be honest, because you think, God, if he's willing to do that, he's probably willing to do an awful lot of things. So yeah, that I think is the strategy for Starmer at the moment. Now, we'll see where that ends up. Obviously, he's also looking to try and reset and have closer ties with the EU, which I support, by the way. I do think that with the United States as it is at the moment, it certainly wouldn't be a bad thing to be on better terms with the European Union, not least France and Germany specifically, being the two biggest members. In typical EU style, I've already found myself getting a bit niggled by them recently, where Starmer's talking about wanting to have sort of a better cooperation on defence and that kind of area, and then the EU's going, nothing's agreed till everything's agreed. How about those fishing rights, Starmer? And in my mind, I'm just thinking, Christ, this trade in that area is one thing, but surely something like defence, with the world as it is now, ought to be viewed as something of a slightly separate issue, where you say, you know what, it's in all of our common best interest to be working closer together right now. Don't hold us over a barrel about bloody fish over it, But again, we'll see what ends up coming of that. The other thing that is probably worth mentioning as well is obviously Reform have now topped a YouGov poll. This isn't no Find Out Now poll. No. This is a YouGov poll. And to be honest, that's actually happened a bit quicker than I thought it would. I'd expected ultimately Reform would end up topping pretty much all of the polls. But I had thought like the likes of Reform topping YouGov was probably still like a month out or something like that. So that's happened a bit quicker than I'd expected. But we'll take our usual sort of look at the polls in more depth again soon. And finally, of course, I say of course, I know, you don't know yet. It's my birthday on Thursday. Yes, I'm going to be the ripe old age of 31. So my plan is, I think I'm going to do a stream on the channel in the evening for that. I might get a few guests on. There might be some politics on it. You can never discount that on this channel, but generally it's just going to be fun vibes. I don't know what I've got planned for it yet. I might come up with some stuff, but if you guys are around then and you would like to help me celebrate my birthday, then by all means feel free to join in. Now, typically, I'm going to finish recording this video, and then I'm going to go, Swiss, there was a really important point that you wanted to make about Trump and the tariffs and the trade war and Europe and Starmer, and you've forgotten what it was. But I suppose that I'll have to wait till Thursday when I think of it, won't it? Anyway, catch you later, folks. Ta-ta.